on the first day of a new week. I gave you a heads up if you listened last Sunday that the title of the message today would be On the First Day. On the first day. Do you have memories of your first days? The first day of school. Maybe it was the only time you allowed your mother or your grandmother or your dad or older sister or whoever to walk you into the classroom. If you happen to be at an elementary school, any elementary school, on the first day of a new school year, there are more cars parked in the parking lot than any other time, because all those mamas or daddies of the kindergartners are walking them hand in hand to the classroom. On the first day, we often need one another more, or at least we recognize how much we need one another more. And let's be honest, walking the kindergartner into school on that first day is as much for the parents as it is for the child. On the first day. On the first day of a new job. Do you remember the first day of a new job? I recall in November of 1997, I took a new job at the Greenville Mental Health Center. And even though I had some experience working with folks who were mentally ill, I don't know what it was, but I felt so overwhelmed on that first day, sitting in my office alone, I cried. Felt so silly, a grown man crying. Jean called to see how the day was going. And despite my best effort to put on a good face, I broke down and cried on the phone. And I said, I think I made a mistake. I don't think I can do this job. And I know she must have been thinking, oh, please, dear Lord, don't quit. You have to have a job. In just a little while, she showed up at my office door with this little happy face glass container that had a plant inside of it. And I got through the rest of the day, and I got through 4.5 years at that job. On the first day of anything new, a new week, a new life experience, we sometimes recognize so much more clearly how much we need one another on the first day. Even first days of good things take some effort, don't they? I was thinking about this. If you're married, or if you've ever been married, do you remember your first day of married life? If not legal marriage, at least the first day of actually living together with your partner under the same roof. Was it bliss? Maybe the honeymoon trip, if there was one, delayed things a bit, delayed real life, but then there comes that first day of waking up, stumbling into the bathroom, seeing the toothpaste cap's been left off overnight, the toilet paper's hanging the wrong way on the holder, just little things. Maybe you're still even a little groggy because you didn't realize how annoying is that little whistling sound that comes out of your loving partner's nose while they sleep. And suddenly, you understand this is not going to be as easy as you thought. First days are often eye-openers. But maybe you make it through, adjusting to each other. And for some of us, by the grace of God, the first day becomes a second day, and then 102nd day, and then 1,002nd day, and then 10,000, 20,000 more days pass before we know it. Some of you know about this. Then there comes another first day. The first day waking up without that familiar voice. And while standing at the mortuary receiving line on that first day, you wonder, how in the world will I make it through this day? I've been told more than once that on that first day of such an experience, the grace of God is all that gets you through. On the first day after any devastating life event, we sometimes maybe don't see it until we look back, but it was only the grace of God that got us through. Our scripture story today, as told by Matthew, comes on the heels of the end of what has turned out to be the worst week of all. For those who know Jesus best and follow him most closely and love him most dearly. Things have taken a turn in a way that while Jesus had tried to prepare them, tried to give them a heads up of what was likely to happen, they would not allow themselves to hear it. Maybe it's for our own protection that sometimes we put up a mental veil of denial about things coming up that we know are going to be painful or disruptive. We don't know exactly where his friends are at the end of that week other than the women. The women who follow the body of Jesus all the way to the tomb. We don't know where the others are. Perhaps they're in hiding in fear for their own lives. Perhaps they're also hiding in guilt for their own unwillingness to stand with Jesus until the end. Maybe it's a mixture, fear and guilt. What a toxic combination. Now, in a world that was dominated by men, in the complete control of men, let's not lose the power of the story as we pick it up in Matthew chapter 28 with the light shining on the women. After the Sabbath, at dawn, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to look at the tomb. There was a great earthquake, for an angel from the Lord came down from heaven. Coming to the stone, the angel rolled it away and sat on it. Now his face was like lightning, and his clothes were as white as snow. The guards were so terrified of him that they shook with fear, and they became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Don't be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He isn't here. Because you see, he's been raised from the dead, just as he said. Come see the place where they have laid him. Now hurry, go and tell his disciples, he's been raised from the dead. He's going on ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. I've given the message to you." With great fear and excitement, the women hurried away from the tomb and they ran to tell his disciples. But Jesus met them and greeted them. And they came and they grabbed his feet and they worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Don't be afraid. Go and tell my brothers that I'm going into Galilee. They will see me there." The word of God for the people of God. I wish somehow we could hear that story as if we were hearing it for the very first time. Fred Craddock says that familiarity with Scripture is like the well-worn pathway that folks have walked over time and time again, and the seed has a hard time taking hold because it's gotten so hard, and it gets blown away or picked up by the chickens. It dawned on me, though, that while most of us have heard or read or reenacted this story hundreds of times before, this is the first time that we've heard this story while living in a world under lockdown by the coronavirus. In some ways, it feels like we are locked in one unending worst week. I don't know if there's anyone still living today who has a frame of reference for navigating a worldwide pandemic. Our last pandemic of this scale was the great influenza of 1918. Well, even centurions still living today were in infancy at that time. We are walking step by step in an environment swirling with thousands of unanswered questions. When will this end? How will it end? What will happen to the world economy, to my job? Will I or someone I love get the virus? Will our healthcare system survive? When will we be able to gather once more with friends and family? When will we be able to hug one another? How do we balance the advice of those who understand the science of pandemics against the voices of protest about restrictions to our personal freedom, or the voices who say we've got to get back to work sooner than later? Can we trust our leaders to decide for us in our best interests? That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to our unanswered questions. See, we've never heard the story of Jesus' resurrection in a world like this before. When I read this story again yesterday, it dawned on me, we are stuck in the most long-suffering, worst week we as a collective people have known in our lifetime. We feel stuck, don't we? And this story tells us we can't stay here, stuck. We have to move on to the first day of a new week. Mentally and spiritually, we have to make a shift. We have to go on. We need to go with those women this morning who walked step by step in an environment swirling with thousands of unanswered questions. We need to step out into that pre-dawn darkness of life and go step by step. And we go not because we know exactly what awaits us. The reality is, we've never known as much as we think we've known. And it has become increasingly apparent to me that we in the Christian community have often missed the boat that Jesus calls us to get aboard. For you see, we too often have thought our job was to tell people that we know what they need to know. We approach others as if we have the whole truth, and if they'll just listen, we can give it to them. It's as if we're saying to them, we are already on the boat and we can give you a ticket to join us if you'll respond in the way we ask you to respond. To me, it sounds now sort of like religious one-upmanship. But according to this story, we all walk by faith and not sight toward God's surprising grace. Our job is simply to help one another get on the boat of life, period. Not worrying about what we call the boat, or the credentials, or lifestyles, or doctrines of those who are on the boat beside us. We just need to help one another get on the boat. On the first day of this new week, we have an opportunity to make some needed changes in our world. We will have missed the boat if we fail to shift our lives and readjust our attitudes. We ought to think twice about going back to the way things were. We've got to help one another out more as we're sailing on this same boat. For we now see how very fragile is our social safety net in this great land of wealth of ours, as now more and more of us need it. On the first day of this new week, maybe finally in our great country, access to health care can be untethered to the luck of getting and keeping a job that offers insurance for it. Imagine a world shaped by Jesus where no one stands in a long line outside waiting to get medical care at an overburdened charity-run free clinic while somebody else sits in a soft chair of a paneled waiting room at their own primary care physician's office. You see, all the excuses that we've made to say that equitable and universal health care is not possible, they've all melted away now in this crisis. On the first day of this new week, it seems like we've discovered that the person running the cash register at the grocery store, or the custodian cleaning the rooms at the hospital, or the driver of the truck bringing needed supplies to our doorsteps, perhaps they need to be earning an income closer to the CEOs of their companies that they work for. For their value to us is now abundantly clear. Maybe on this first day of a new week, we will learn to appreciate one another more and be less greedy in sharing our resources. On the first day of a new week, maybe we all could reevaluate and reorder our lives to this new pace that we've been forced into. Slower, gentler, kinder, calmer, simpler. Turns out it's not only good for us, it's good for the planet. We, meaning the human race, have become an enemy of this planet God has given us as a home. In a thought-provoking article about how we should not return out of this pandemic to the way things used to be, a writer by the name of Julio Vincent Gambuto says, what this trauma has shown us is clear. A carless Los Angeles now has clear blue skies as pollution has simply stopped. In a quiet New York City, you can hear the birds chirp in the middle of Madison Avenue. And coyotes have been spotted on the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. He said these are the postcard images of what the world might be like if we could find a way to have a less deadly daily effect on the planet. On the first day of a new week, according to the story of Jesus and his resurrection, on the first day of a new week, God will show up in ways we never expected. And God will assure us that love is stronger than death. That hope does spring eternal. It is true, we are living without answers right now. But the truth is also, we've always lived without answers. We just thought we had the answers. What we cannot live without is what the Apostle Paul wrote when he said, no matter what happens, three things: abide, endure, remain. Faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. I caught a video a few days ago made by gospel songwriters Bill and Gloria Gaither. Like all of us, the Gaithers have aged. Bill's fingers are now somewhat slower on the piano, and his voice a little shaky. But on this video, the words of his song were still as powerful as ever. As he sang, because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future. And life is worth the living just because he lives. The first day of a new week has come. Praise God. Jesus is alive. You see, we're going to make it through this together, without a doubt. And on the other side of this crisis, maybe, just maybe, we will become a better people. Yes, life is worth the living. Faith, hope, love. These three endure. And the greatest of these is love. Let's pray. May the resounding song of hope, whose notes and rhythms come so clearly through the story that Matthew told, and John told, and Luke told, and Mark told centuries ago. May the song of hope ring in our hearts this day, oh God, is our prayer. In the name of Christ our